Gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Vancouver Aquarium. And this morning we have a very special event for you as part of our Sea Monsters Revealed lecture series. It's called Monster Brains, the mysterious lives of octopuses. And this morning I have my friend here. She is an author who has written about 20 books, all about scientists in the field. She tells us a little bit more about some of the really exciting things you can do. Does anyone here like snakes? Maybe some of you at home. Yes. Well, Sai has spent her time in a pit with 18,000 snakes. She swum with dolphins and sharks and octopuses. And she is so wonderful at telling us the stories of these amazing animals. And so I feel pretty lucky to have been able to spend about 2 years ago time with her on the island of Moorea in French Polynesia, where she tells and talks a little bit more about this adventures that myself and a few octopus scientists had while hunting some octopuses to learn a little bit more about their mysterious, some might even say, monster brains. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, author Sai Montgomery.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. This is a really special day for me because what we're doing with you here today is we're celebrating publication of a brand new book that just came out this week. And this is it, The Octopus Scientists. And we have the characters from the book right here in the front row to meet you. So we picked Vancouver Aquarium as the place to launch this because we thought it would be so great to get a whole bunch of kids here to celebrate with us and the characters from this book, what we found out and how we found it out, and how wonderful and surprising octopuses are. Well, I've written a couple of different books about octopus, actually. Here's one that I did for grown-ups called The Soul of an Octopus. And working on this book was how I got into octopuses in general. Let me tell you how I met my very first octopus. Her name was Athena. She would have stood about 4 feet tall, although she weighed only about 40 pounds. And she had venom like a snake and a beak like a parrot. She could change color and shape. She could pour herself through an opening the size of maybe a walnut. Do you have any friends like that? Well, I did, because she was a giant Pacific octopus. Let me tell you about the day I met her. It was the first octopus who I'd ever touched. It was at New England Aquarium on the other end of the country. I live in New Hampshire, and New England Aquarium is in the town of Boston. And I went to the aquarium and went behind the scenes. Has any of you gone on a behind-the-scenes tour at the Vancouver Aquarium here? Anybody? Isn't it great? Well, what I got to do was one of the keepers opened the lid covering the tank where Athena lived. And to my great surprise, Athena changed color. She got red with excitement. She came sliding over. I saw her eyes swivel in its socket and look at my face. And then she came over to meet me. And I asked, can I touch her? And the keeper said, well, yeah. So I plunged my arms and hands into the 47-degree cold salt water. And out came her arms, covered with beautiful, strong white suckers. And she attached her suckers to the skin of my hands and arms. And one of the amazing things about octopuses is they can taste with all of their skin. They can taste with their eyelids. But the sense of taste is particularly concentrated on the suckers. So while her suckers were on my skin, she wasn't just feeling me, she was tasting me too. Now, I don't know about you, but if a person had started tasting me that early in our relationship, I would have been alarmed. But happily, she was an octopus, and that's how they get to know you. And I was just thrilled. I got the feeling that she was just as curious about me as I was about her. And I also knew that she wasn't afraid of me. And how did I know? Well, when I was petting her, underneath my touch, she turned from red to white. And white is the color of a relaxed octopus. So I had kind of a little relationship going, having just met her. And that intrigued me so much. I wanted to find out as much as I could about octopus, and I spent 3 years learning about them. Now, octopuses are so different from us that you would have to go to outer space or to science fiction to find a creature more alien. But they aren't space aliens. They live right here on Earth, but beneath the sea. Let me tell you a little bit about how different an octopus is from a person. First of all, our bodies. We have skeletons on the inside. They have no skeleton at all, which is why the octopus can pour itself through a little tiny crack, squeeze itself into a little tiny opening. They can squeeze themselves into anything big enough to accommodate their beak. They have a beak like a parrot, and it's located in their mouth. But where's their mouth? It's in their armpits. How would you like to have your mouth in your armpits? You'd have to take a hamburger and stick it under here, and you'd have to take an ice cream sundae and put it under there. It'd be kind of weird. But this is how they're organized. And also, a lot of people don't realize, we go head, body, limbs. They don't go like that. This part of the octopus, a lot of people think it's the head, but it's not. This is kind of the body where all their organs are. This part where the eyes are is the head. So instead of head, body, limbs, they go body, head, limbs. And their limbs are very special. Not only are they covered with these cool suckers, but if something came along, like a shark, and munched off an octopus's arm, the octopus isn't worried about it. They can regrow their arm. Wouldn't that be cool? And it's going to be perfect when it regrows. But meanwhile, if the arm were separated from the octopus's body, the arm could go off and do stuff. In fact, I've even read that it can go off and even hunt things. I mean, not for really long, because you need to be attached to the octopus's body. And it's 3 hearts. They have 3 hearts. And they don't even have blood like ours. Our blood is red, as you know. Their blood is blue. So here's this creature that's really different from us. In fact, the last time we shared a common ancestor in evolution with an octopus, it was 500 million years ago. And yet, you can get to know an octopus. Octopuses remember who individual people are. So the person who found that out is actually with us today. And she's the star of the book that I wrote for young people. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Mather. She's sitting right here in the front row, and she did a really cool experiment. She wanted to find out, can octopuses tell individual people apart? And so what she did was she got some volunteers, and everyone was dressed exactly the same. And some of the volunteers would touch an octopus with a bristly stick, and ooh, they don't like that, it feels icky. And others would give them a delicious fish. Well, here I am. Here we are. This is showing where the fish eventually goes. The octopus is upside down. We're looking at the mouth, and this octopus is enjoying a delicious fish. Well, the people who touched the octopus with the bristly stick, the octopus quickly learned to recognize that person, even when they were dressed identically to the one who had fed him, and they would move away. Oh, I don't want to see you. Sometimes they wouldn't just move away, but they'd blast that person with icy cold salt water right in the face. I don't like you at all. But the ones that fed them, they were like, oh, great, I'm going to slide over and say hello. Maybe I'll get another fish. This is my friend. So octopuses remember who individual humans are just by looking up through the water at them. Here he is enjoying a delicious fish. One of the things that was neat about feeding an octopus is that they don't just take the fish and stuff it into their mouth. But you know what? If I hand you an ice cream cone, do you just jam it down your throat? No, of course not. You lick it because it tastes delicious. Well, because they can taste with all of their skin, but particularly their suckers, they like to pass it from sucker to sucker to sucker because they're tasting it. And tasting it is fun, and it also helps you tell what's delicious, what's healthy, what's good, because poisonous things generally don't taste good. So they like a tasty treat just like we do. Well, here's another great fact about octopus that maybe you knew. Did you know that octopuses can change color? And they can do it in less than a second. Let's watch this octopus. Less than a second, he goes from this to this to this to this. And they can also grow all kinds of spots really quickly and then make them fade and then maybe have some stripes and then make them fade. And then around their eyes, they can have a starburst pattern. And then they can also do this cool thing, which Jennifer called passing cloud. And you know how sometimes a cloud comes and it makes everything go dark underneath it and the shadow moves? They can do that on their own skin. They're really got these amazing superpowers. I wish I could do some of the stuff an octopus can do. Well, getting to know these animals as individuals, I got to know Athena, who was a feisty octopus. I got to know another named Octavia, who at first was kind of standoffish and aggressive, but later became a very close friend. I got to know another one whose name was Keeley, and she was playful. At the Seattle Aquarium, they have names for their octopuses. One was called Emily Dickinson. Does anyone know who Emily Dickinson was in history? She was a very shy poet and writer, and this was a very shy octopus. There was another one they called Leisure Suit Larry because his arms were always on you and you had to peel them off. And then there was another they called Lucretia McEvil because she was always dismantling her tank. So octopus tenders, folks who keep octopus, have known for a long time that they have individual personalities. But I got to see this for myself. And it made me love octopuses so much that I wanted to meet them in the wild as well as get to know them in captivity. So what they inspired me to do was to actually become a scuba diver. Are any of you scuba divers? There we go. Well, I did this in my 50s, and it was not particularly easy for me, but I loved it. It opened up the whole sea for me. And what I got to do was meet wild octopuses. My first dive was in Mexico. And my next dive, I just made 2 dives in Moorea, but this was on an expedition with Dr. Jennifer Mather and a team of octopus experts. We went to study a species of octopus called the blue octopus in the wild. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about our study. The reason that Dr. Mather chose the place that she did, which was Moorea, was that it had a famous research institute already there where we could stay. And look, this is the campus where we were. And this was in French Polynesia. It's one of those places that people go for their honeymoon because it's so beautiful with the palm trees and the hibiscus and delicious foods. But we were going because of the octopuses. And Dr. Mather assembled a team of experts to go on this trip to investigate whether these octopuses, who were Octopus Cyanea, the Pacific blue octopus, big blue octopus is another name for it, to find out what do they eat and why. See, one of the things that she investigates is how personality affects the decisions that octopuses make. And one of the things she wanted to find out is, do bold octopuses have wider diets, different diets than shy octopuses? So she amassed a team of experts. One of her experts is here with us today, Dr. David Scheel. And he is one of the top experts in the world on giant Pacific octopuses, the kind that live right here outside your door. One of the really cool things that Dr. Scheel has found out was he devised a way to put telemetry, what we used to call radio collars, on an octopus. Now, how do you put a radio collar on somebody who doesn't have a neck? It's pretty hard to put a collar on an octopus. Well, you know how he figured it out? He actually attached the equivalent of a pierced ear to their gill slit. And it was a hard thing to figure out because octopuses are so dexterous with their suckers. They can have a pincer grip, like you and your fingers. They can untie the surgical silk of sutures with their suckers. So figuring this out was pretty brilliant. And so was Dr. Mather in figuring out we needed David on the team. And who else do we have on the team? Dr. Tatiana Leite, who came all the way from Brazil to join our study. She had discovered whole new species of octopus that no one knew about off the coast of Brazil where she lived. And to complete our team, we had Keeley Langford, who works right here at the Vancouver Aquarium. And the reason Jennifer wanted her is she's athletic, she is talented, and she has eagle eyes for octopuses. And it turned out that Keeley, who's an interpreter right here at the aquarium, found most of the octopuses that we discovered in our study. Now, I thought that we would be doing a bit of diving, of scuba diving, and I did go scuba diving twice, but most of the octopuses that we found were found in extremely shallow water. Look how shallow the water was where we were working. And it sounds like, oh, that should be easy, but it wasn't easy at all because there was sharp coral that we had to watch out for, and sea urchin spines, and the spines of poisonous stonefish. It was hard to work in the shallows, but that's where a lot of the octopuses were. And here you can see Jennifer's standing there, and she's got her data sheet. Well, obviously you can't take a piece of paper under the water, so what she had was a slate, a dive slate that you could write on with a pencil. And one of the things that we were doing in our study was giving the octopuses a personality test. Now, was that the Rorschach ink blot test, you might ask? Octopuses have ink, but that was not the test that she was giving them. This was a test ranking them from bold to shy. And to tell if it was a bold octopus, we would test and see, what does the octopus do when you first meet it? Does he hide? That might be a shy octopus, right? Or does the octopus reach out with his arm and grab your pencil? Which happened a number of times. So we were ranking them from bold to shy and then seeing if this correlated with what they ate. Well, the first few days of the study, I was getting kind of nervous because octopuses, remember, they change color, they change shape, they can pour themselves down a tiny little hole. That makes them really hard to find. How can you find somebody who can change color to blend in and just hide so well you can't even see them? And at first we weren't finding any octopuses at all. We looked everywhere. We looked in little cracks, we looked for their food remains, but the first couple of days we were getting nervous. Are we gonna find them at all, much less get any data? We saw all kinds of beautiful other things, incredible, beautiful fish. We had these nice sharks come up to us, but no octopuses. To the point that the photographer told me, well, you're gonna have to draw one in the sand and I'll photograph that. But sure enough, thanks to our bloodhounds, as Jennifer called her team of experts, they started finding the octopuses even though they were super hard to find. Now at first, all we could see was maybe a pair of eyes or just some tentacles sticking up out of a hole. But they were great at finding them. But it was kind of disappointing for me because I wanted to see them and I wanted to swim with them and I wanted to interact with them. And it was days and days before we had what I consider one of the coolest experiences of my entire life. that was when the octopuses started coming out. And here's one who I met. Can you see the octopus here? How many people can see it? Oh, we have some really eagle eyes here. My husband looked at this picture and he said, "Where's the octopus?" He couldn't see it at all. And it was right in front of us. But you all, because you're so good at spotting these things, you probably saw the eyes on the octopus right away, didn't you? Here's the eye. But look how the octopus has even camouflaged the eye. She's made a starburst pattern to make her eye look like something else. Because the octopus doesn't just need to look like not an octopus. I mean, it doesn't have to look like a coral. It doesn't have to look like a rock. It can look like anything as long as it doesn't look like an octopus. And it can change in 7/10 of a second. It can change color and shape. It can grow all kinds of bumps all over its skin. So it was amazing, I thought, that we found any at all. But what was even more amazing was that this octopus was very bold, and she let us swim around with her. We were able to see her hunting in all different kinds of ways. Here she is using her interbrachial web to try to capture prey. And here she is kind of fishing around like a person looking for keys in their pockets, using her arms to probe into crevices. And you can see that she's grown some little spots on her arms. In just a second, she could change them. So the spots were gone, or they turned into stripes, or they turned blue. And it was just magic, swimming with this beautiful sea creature who was showing us all her almost magical powers. But what impressed me the most about these octopuses was their intelligence. And here you're seeing an octopus look very carefully at a fish. Not only do they recognize individual humans, but they probably recognize everybody in their neighborhood. And this changed for me forever the way I would think about thinking. Octopuses are mollusks. Can anyone name another kind of mollusk? Clams? Snails? They're mollusks, right? Well, clams don't even have brains. But octopuses have very big brains. They're very different from ours, but they're big brains, and octopuses know a lot of stuff. And it changed my life forever to know that there are creatures in the sea who might have minds quite like our own in their degree of intelligence. It thrills me that they're so different from us, and yet we share these similarities. And this is why I wrote these books, to share with everyone that we need all kinds of minds on this planet. It makes it a much richer place. And I'm hoping that this book, The Octopus Scientists, written for kids, might inspire some of you one day to become an octopus scientist. Well, I want to break and make sure that we have time for some questions and answers. And since we have our scientists right here with us, if you have any questions to ask the scientists, or you can ask me, the author, we'd be really happy to answer those for you. I see a hand already up here. Let's, oh good, everyone can come up. Aha. Should I send the mic up to Keeley? Keeley's going to repeat the question for us.
So her question is, what do octopuses eat?
What do octopuses eat? Well, it depends on the species. There's 250 different species of octopus, but I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Mather, who's done a number of studies on exactly this question.
I'm going behind you.
Oh, okay.
There. Here we go. Actually, octopuses eat a lot of different stuff, just like we do. So octopuses eat crabs, octopuses eat clams, octopuses eat snails, lots of different stuff, okay?
Mostly seafood.
Although I have read that giant Pacific octopuses have been seen eating birds and even otters.
So the question is now, how long do octopuses live?
Well, remember, there's 250 different species, so we don't know how long each species of octopus might live. They generally don't live long enough, if you ask me. Giant Pacific octopuses like those that we have here in the aquarium, they might live 3 years. And since they're a big octopus, they're one of the more long-lived species. Most of them only live a year or less, but they get a lot of living done in that short time.
How big can octopuses get?
Oh boy. Well, the biggest octopus is the giant Pacific octopus. And I think the largest one recorded weighed 300 pounds and had an arm span of 32 feet.
Were you at any point scared while researching octopuses or studying them?
Well, I'm going to ask these two about whether they were scared studying octopuses. I wasn't. Interestingly, being grabbed by dozens of suckers did not upset me at all. I was very happy. I felt as if I was being hugged and kissed at the same time. But I think that Dr. Scheel and Dr. Mather might have had more harrowing adventures. Let me see.
I tend to have so much fun playing with the octopuses underwater that I forget that I have only so much air in the can on my back when I'm scuba diving, and so I'll just run out of air, and then when I have to leave the octopus because there's no more air in my tank, I get a little nervous.
I've never been scared studying octopuses. They're pussycats. They're kind of afraid of us. But when I was in Moorea, I remember I was with the other two researchers, and we were a little bit far apart, and the water was about that deep, and I was moving along, doing nothing very much, and I looked up, and from me to you, there was a 6-foot shark going by. And I remember, after it had gone, I thought, should I get scared? It's already gone.
So how do you tell the difference between a male and a female octopus?
Oh.
Very nice.
You ask politely. So the question is, how do you tell the difference between a male and a female octopus? So the female octopuses, on all their 8 arms, they have suckers that go all the way out to the tips. And the male octopuses will have 1 arm. It's usually the 3rd one down on the right side that is modified, and it doesn't have suckers all the way to the tips. And the boys are very, very shy about that arm, and they always keep it tucked up and out of your way. So if they won't let you look at that arm, it's probably a boy.
So we have a question for Cy. They would like to know how long it took for you to write your book.
How long did it take me to write the book? Well, the adult book here, which is 250 pages, took 3 years to research and a year to write. This book, which is written specially for younger people and features all these gorgeous color photographs, took me less time to write. The research was a couple of weeks, and then the writing was maybe, 2 months?
3 months, yeah, you were quick.
I write very quickly because I used to write for a newspaper. And it's so fun to come back from an expedition and just tell everyone about it.
So another one for you, Cy. They'd like to know how many books you've written.
I have written 20 books. And, well, actually, I've written 21, but 20 have been published. And they're all about animals, because that's my favorite thing to write about.
And we have another question. Do octopuses have babies?
Well, octopuses do have babies, otherwise we wouldn't have many octopuses left. But they lay eggs, and I actually, when researching Soul of the Octopus, I got to watch a mother octopus tending her eggs. They can lay up to 100,000 tiny eggs, each the size of a grain of rice. And the mother spends loads of time cleaning them and keeping them safe from predators. And then at the end of her life, if she's lucky, she uses her funnel or her jet to help the babies hatch out of those eggs and leave the den where she's protected them for all those months and float out into the sea as tiny paralarvae. And that's the last thing that she probably gets to see.
Why do octopuses squirt ink?
Why do octopuses squirt ink? Wouldn't you love to have an ink squirting feature as you drive on the highway? Octopuses squirt ink. A lot of people think that they use it as a smoke screen, but that's not really it. I've seen them do this just once. And what I saw was they squirt out a blob, and then the blob drips down some arms. It looks just like an octopus. So the predator that scared them focuses on what they think is an octopus. Meanwhile, the real octopus changes color and jets away. Do you have anything to add?
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that was very
What
exciting.
happens?
It also turns out that the ink clogs up the receptors of the fish or other animal so that it can't smell the octopus. So it's a smoke screen, and it's also a chemical screen.
Okay, so the last question we'll have on microphone is how many different kinds of things do they eat? It might be a good David question.
Oh, yeah.
Oh gosh, octopuses eat a lot of different kinds of things, mostly crabs and clams and other little things like that. But there was an interesting study that I saw that looked at how many different kinds of things people eat from the intertidal, and it was this big number of different kinds of seafood that people eat. And then I looked at my own data from a nearby area, and octopuses ate more things than the people do. So they eat pretty much anything. So the study I'm working on, we've got something like 70 different kinds of food that we identified that they eat just from the nearshore waters alone. And that includes everything from birds to slipper shells.
Okay, boys and girls, those were lots of really excellent questions, and you'll be able to ask more questions in just a few moments, but we did spend lots of time getting to learn a little bit more about octopuses. Let's take a moment. Does anyone feel like being an octopus? Can I see some octopus wriggles? Excellent. Those of you at home can do some octopus wriggles as well. Brilliant. Those were wonderful. So we thank you so much for joining us this morning to hear a little bit more from author Cy Montgomery and hear a bit more about her beautiful books that are available here at the aquarium, and they're available online for purchase as well. And we thank you so much for coming to our Sea Monsters Revealed talk. Maybe we can all give these three a nice big round of applause. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, thanks for your visit here at the aquarium. We have lots of other wonderful celebrations that will be ongoing very shortly as well. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us online and at the Vancouver Aquarium, and have a wonderful rest of your morning. So boys and girls that are here in our theater right now, just take a seat.